This here is the deck that I used to make top 8 in the recent Brisbane Regionals event, the first competitive Pokemon event that has been back for the 2022 season. This deck was a lot of fun. I'll talk you through how it works, the reason I chose some specific cards, and then take you through a couple of games to show you how it works in practice as well. We'll start off with Arceus. Obviously, Arceus is a really strong card. It's the kind of feature card of the brand new set. 280 HP V-Star Pokemon, normal type, so it's weak to fighting, which is not a big presence in the meta at the moment. Trinity Nova is an attack that is incredibly strong. 200 damage for 3 energy is massive, and then the ability to accelerate energy to Pokemon on the bench is weird. It's really good. You're able to power up other Arceus and get yourself rolling in that particular matchup. It doesn't power up your Inteleons, which is a little disappointing, but I mean, you don't really need too much more than Arceus. As long as you're attacking with that every single turn, you're going to be fine, and there's no way that you ever miss the cards that you need because you have the Star Birth ability as the V-Star power. You can only use it once in a game, but once is all you need. You can search for any 2 cards in your deck and then chuck that into your hand, ready to utilize them to do whatever it is that you need to do, and that's why this card is so very strong. Worth noting, the Arceus has Trinity Charge as well, so the baby Arceus has Trinity Charge to allow you to set up. So even if you do go second, you can attach a copy of Double Turbo Energy. This list runs 4 of them. You can attach Double Turbo Energy and then Accelerate Energy to another Arceus on the bench. That can be particularly useful against decks that can take prizes on the first turn of the game. We also have an Inteleon line. I've got 2 copies of Quick Shooting Inteleon in my list and 1 copy of Shady Dealings Inteleon. To be brutally honest, you could go either way on this. I'm thinking if I was going to play the deck again, I would want to have Shady Dealings Inteleon a little bit more consistently, so I'd probably play 2 of them and 1 of the Quick Shooting, but it's personal preference. I found that the 2 Quick Shooting were very good, especially against decks like Malamar, where you can take out things like Inkay in the late game to stop your opponent from setting up at all, but obviously Shady Dealings can be very useful to search out item cards, which this deck does so well. You can pretty much search out anything you want at any stage of the game, which means that it's a very interesting kind of skill-based, decision-based deck, where other lists like Mew VMAX maybe are a little bit more luck-based, in the sense that you need to draw into the cards that you need rather than just searching for them. A couple of interesting techs in the list. Obviously, I am playing the Dunsparce with Mysterious Nest. Removes weakness of normal type Pokemon, so any fighting type Pokemon cannot deal with Arceus. Personally, it didn't come up at all throughout the tournament. I didn't play against any fighting type Pokemon apart from maybe in 1 matchup, but it wasn't that big of a deal. So you could probably cut this and replace it with anything that you like. I know some lists are playing things like the Minion V. There are other single prize Pokemon that you might be able to fit in as well. I like it as an insurance policy, right? If you know that people are going to be playing Zapdos, probably not a bad idea to have it. Just removes 1 out that your opponent has to taking an easy couple of prizes. 1 card that lots of lists weren't playing in the lead up that I really like is Galarian Zigzagoon. It means that with Arceus V-Star, you can use Galarian Zigzagoon and a copy of Choice Belt to reach 220 damage, which will knock out your opponent's Arceus V. Lots of the time, your opponent won't realize that you can actually reach 220, so Zigzagoon and Choice Belt will do that. Obviously, your damage is offset by the Double Turbo Energy, which can be a little bit awkward. So I would definitely recommend the Zigzagoon. I think it's very strong, and obviously you can use it to help you get knockouts on those baby Inkays as well. Maybe a Sobble or 2. There was 1 game where I was able to double Quick Shooting into double ping with Zigzagoon thanks to Scoop Up Net to knock out a Sobble on my opponent's bench to take a prize and then knock out a Pokemon in the active. So you can get those kind of quirky plays with the Zigzagoon that maybe you wouldn't be able to without it. You might also want to see some more Scoop Up Nets if you're focusing in on that. One of the other things that I really like about the list is the amount of supporters that we play. There's a lot of different ones in here, and I'll talk through why they are important. We'll start with one of the ones that I think is the most important, Cheren's Care, a very strong supporter. I only play 1 in the list, probably want to play 2, but it's kind of awkward to fit all these different tech supporters in. It means that one of your normal type Pokemon that has damage counters on it. You can pick it up, put it back into your hand with all the cards that go with it. So if you've got an Arceus VSTAR in the active that your opponent has half hit, which normally they will have to do because your Arceus VSTAR will have 310 HP if you attach a Big Charm to it. If they have to half hit it, then you can pick it up with Cheren's Care, remove all of the damage from the board, replace the Arceus VSTAR in the active, and then accelerate to a new benched Arceus, which for lots of decks, they cannot deal with it at all. You can get away with playing it a second time thanks to Powpad. I didn't play the second Cheren or the third boss because I figured that Powpad would do the job. You can search it out with Drizzile or with your Arceus ability, so it's not the end of the world there. But if I was going to play the list again, I would probably try and increase the counts of those cards to be a little bit thicker. The other card that I want to see more of is Boss's Orders. Against Mew particularly, you want to play 3 copies of Boss if you can, just because it's much easier to gust around VMAXs and Meloettas than it is to try and hit through them. If you try and hit through the VMAX, you can never one-shot it, which means that they have the opportunity to Psychic Leap and remove it from the field. So you definitely want to be hitting those Genesects on the bench, and you definitely want to be hitting those Mews. But the most important thing against Mew VMAX is Path to the Peak. Now, we saw Natalie Miller's list. She won with 2 stadiums in her deck, relying on coin flips from Cramomatic and also finding the stadiums off of Rotom Phone. Path to the Peak was completely disrespected by a lot of the top players in this event, and I think it's part of the reason why I managed to do so well. To be honest, I actually found myself being bricked by Path to the Peak in some situations, because you can't Starbirth when your own path's in play, so I wouldn't mind seeing something like a Pumpkaboo in the list to try and remove that path. If it is in play, maybe in place of the Dunsparce, that could potentially be an option. But definitely a very, very strong card, and it won me more than a couple of games. Another card that pairs quite nicely with that is a single copy of Judge. I know this is a little bit of a sketchy supporter, but the reason that I played it is because I knew, okay, Mew's going to be trying to put a stadium on top of their deck with Rotom Phone to play out of a path that I play in my turn. So if I play Marnie Path, they'll just draw into the stadium. I'm going to play Judge Path instead and try and lock them out of their abilities. And you'd be surprised the amount of times it came up. It was quite a useful supporter, although to be honest, Marnie obviously is a better card in the long run. In general, though, the list is really, really strong. It's really, really consistent. Its biggest weakness is if you don't get an attachment to Arceus on turn 1, then you are usually playing from behind the entire game. You can win from behind because of cards like Cheren's Care, but it just makes your life a lot more difficult. So I would definitely recommend trying to find those energies. We have 11 outs to energy, 4 double turbo, 6 water, and then the Capacious Bucket. So you should be able to find them more often than not, but don't be surprised if it doesn't happen. And if you lose games because you don't have energy, then you shouldn't be surprised about that either. To be honest, I really, really enjoyed playing this list. It's not perfect by any stretch, and it's definitely got some weaknesses, but I think it was a pretty good call on the day. I don't know if it's going to be a great call for Salt Lake City, because now that people are aware of how strong it is, then maybe they will be prepared for it. But in saying that, it does have a lot of consistency. Inteleon plus Arceus means that you can pretty much do whatever you want, so I would definitely recommend giving it a test. And if you are playing a different deck, then make sure you can beat this one. You can't deal with Cheren's Care looping those Arceuses, then it's going to be a little bit difficult. Anyway, I've talked for way too long. Let's jump into some gameplay, and hopefully you enjoy watching this one in action. So our first game with Arceus Inteleon is actually going to be up against Mew VMAX here. Looks like our opponent is going to be playing that particular deck. Oricorio is an annoying card to work with, but we've done the thing that I said that we needed to do, which is find an energy attachment on turn 1. We'll have Arceus V and a double turbo energy in play, which means that if our opponent whiffs an attachment, we are relatively likely to be able to get an attack off. Also, we have Path to the Peak in our hand. Against Mew, I actually really like just playing it down, right? Doesn't really matter if you don't use your Arceus VSTAR's ability. You've got access to Sobble, Drizzile, and Inteleon, so it's not that big of a deal. The issue is that Mew, if it's given a lot of cards, can definitely take knockouts, so you want to slow them down as quickly as possible. And presuming that our friend Rory Brandon up here is playing a modern Mew VMAX list that is a double turbo energy focused one, then I imagine that we'll be able to leave that path in the active for a relative a relatively long time. Obviously, there's coin flips that we need to deal with. Cramomatic could come up and flip the coin, but you know what? It's not the end of the world. We should be fine. Okay, so they've retreated into Oricorio. Not sure that that's the best idea here, and we've top-decked into an Arceus. So what we're going to do is we're just going to attach, as we mentioned. I'll put the Choice Belt down as well, play the path, and then we will judge and see what we end up getting here. I would love to see, and it looks like we have found a copy of Sobble. I can quick ball away a water energy if I want to find another Sobble, and that's really, really strong because it means it removes the escape rope out from our opponent. They cannot escape rope in order to take a knockout on a V. I'll actually get rid of the double turbo energy here and instead hold the water. I think that's probably better in the long run because we can just attach to the Arceus next turn and attack. Maybe better to discard the water energy if we wanted to go for a Melanie, which we could have, but it's not an ideal attack by any stretch. And I think we're going to be pretty much fine here. As long as our opponent can't replace the stadium, we're going to have so much time to set ourselves up. And then when they eventually do replace the stadium, we'll have a V-Star in play that they're unlikely to be able to knock out that we can then try and deal with. So the Rotom Phone here might be looking for that stadium. Means that they don't have any more search cards to use. Means that they are unlikely to be using Elisa this turn. They could attach and boss, but they need to have a switch as well. And they cannot have all three of those cards, so I think our Arceus will survive here. So we'll attach to that and then Level Ball to evolve whichever one of our Sobbles remains. Either the active if it's still there, or the bench if the active is knocked out. We'll be ready to go. I'd really like it though if they just pass here. If we leave that Oricorio in the active, we'll be in a pretty good spot. And that's what they're doing. So we are looking good. We will level ball. Actually top-decked another DTE here, which is not ideal, but I mean, we can definitely accept it. Let's throw that down. I'm going to grab myself a copy of a Scoop Up Net. I think that seems fine. We'll scoop up the Drizzile in the active. We can scoop that up. Put the Arceus V into the active, attach the energy, we'll play down the Drizzile again, get ourselves, and we could get a supporter. I'm actually just going to go for the Evo Incense here. I'm going to be greedy, and assume that our opponent won't be able to deal with us very quickly. Grab our V-Star, chuck that in the active, play down our Sobble, and then Trinity Nova. Take a knockout on the Oricorio, which removes their energy, their damage reduction. And then we'll chuck 3 water energies onto the Arceus on the bench, which will now be dealing 200 damage when it becomes a V-Star. So hopefully we draw a good prize. Worst case scenario... oh, Melody's pretty good, actually. That's definitely good. Worst case scenario, we're just top-decking. But again, I don't think, unless they replace the stadium with their Rotom Phone card, I don't think there's a huge amount that our opponent's going to be able to do here. They can't draw cards unless they replace the stadium. If they do replace the stadium, they're only drawing up to 4, so it's not like they're drawing a heap. And at the moment, the most that they can deal, since they've only got 2 cards in their hand, is actually 270. So we are never getting knocked out by this Mew VMAX here. Never getting knocked out by it at all. So I'm kind of happy with this. And we might even, let's see what they do. We might even just retreat the active, to be honest, and Melanie to try and draw some cards. There's a Melodious Echo, so they're dealing 140. Can live with that. We've got a Quick Ball. Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe it's time to draw some cards. We might retreat the V-Star. And then just attack with the baby V. That's probably fine. We can Melanie to the V-Star to draw some cards, and that way we'll have half hit the V-Max Mew as well. They don't have another Mew in play, so it's going to be a little awkward. This just makes their life a little tougher as well, and if we find another V-Star, which we have off of the Drizzile, then we're actually in a pretty good spot. So I'm feeling good. We can grab ourselves an Evo Incense here. We can use that Evo Incense to grab ourselves a... But we don't need the Inteleon. Let's go for the Arceus. We need the Arceus. I was just like, do we need the Inteleon? Can we get the Inteleon? No, we need the Arceus. We'll throw that into the active. We'll play down the Sobble in our hand. And now that we've got DTE as well, we can attach that to the benched Arceus next turn. We are doing everything that we need to do. I'm actually thinking I'll just hold that water energy in the deck. We don't need to attach those to Arceus on the bench just yet. Definitely could, but we don't need to. And yeah, like, we're in a really dominant position here. They don't really have a huge amount of outs to win this game. If they boss and take a knockout, then they'll need to do that using Mew VMAX, which they then cannot use the Baby Mew's attack, Psychic Leap, which they want to use. If they do that, they go down to 5 prizes, which means they still need to take 3 knockouts. And we've got plenty of options to take knockouts with Trinity Nova for 200 in the active. They can never reduce the damage because of Oricorio. So we're looking actually really, really swell. And they've identified that. They've gone, yep, there's actually nothing that we can do here. So I'll chuck the DTE onto the Arceus, and then we'll quick ball away a path, grab ourselves another Arceus. I think we'll just put that on the bench and go deal with 3 of these. We'll research away our zero card hand, and look at this. We've got double quick shooting Inteleon and also Drizzile, as well as Boss's Orders. So we are actually we're actually looking real good here. We'll just Trinity Nova into the Meloetta. Again, we're just kind of hoping that our opponent doesn't have a huge turn here, and I think we are now in a position where it's almost, the game's almost unlosable for us, right? At this stage, we have 2 powered Arceus. We need 4 prizes to win the game. Our opponent's never going to manipulate our hand. They don't play Marnie, they don't play Judge, they don't play those cards. So we've got Boss's Orders to take a knockout. So even if they do, let's just assume they knock out one of our V-Stars this turn, we can then Boss and knock out a Genesect or a Mew using the remaining Arceus V-Star. We've got an Evo Incense and a DTE to attach to the next Arceus V-Star, plus Inteleons and Drizziles, so we can search out another boss if we have to. At this stage of the game, knowing that their Oricorio is gone, there is no way that Mew can win. Even if they bump the path and pop off from here, the fact that they've bricked for a couple of turns because of Path of the Peak means that there's nothing that they can do to win this game. We are going to win from here on out. It's just a matter of how. Whether we knock out the Mew VMAX or whether we knock out something else. It's almost guaranteed. Because, yeah, we can just boss out one of their Genesects. We can boss out something else next turn using our Drizzile to find the last boss. And we will be set, ready to go with those Inteleons. So, feeling pretty good. Looks like they're going to go for an escape rope here. They've got nothing on their bench that they want to go into, really. I'm just going to chuck up this Arceus V-Star. I don't really mind if it gets knocked out. They go down to 4 prizes. Then we can just attack and knock out the VMAX anyway. And there you go. They've bricked again. Deck's pretty good. Deck is pretty good. Now, I will state this. It's not going to happen every time against Mew. It's definitely not perfect. But, from here, we've done all we need to do. We'll just get all of our gold boys into play. We can quick shooting. We'll put this on the Meloetta just in case something insane happens. Because then we're guaranteed to win the game next turn with a couple of quick shooting pings and a Zigzagoon. But yeah, 3 prizes here. That's it. We've locked it up. Our opponent has done absolutely nothing, and we are well on our way to 6-0ing Mew, the best deck in the format, just because they disrespect Path. Path is a good card, and you need to be aware of it. 2 cards in hand. What do you have, Rory Brandon? Do you have anything? You got another Mew? And that's it. Well played, sir. Well played to you. Trinity Nova into Meloetta. 6-0 against the best deck in the format. Arceus Inteleon. Pretty good. It's pretty good. I will say one of the things that Arceus Inteleon does struggle with is kind of random decks. And speaking of random decks, it looks like we've got one to deal with here. Zarude V, maybe a Grass Box, maybe Shaman V-Star could be an option. So we'll see how this goes. 220 HP though, we know we can hit with Zigzagoon and Choice Belt. So we'll see whether it's worth doing that or not. We've actually got a really, really good first turn here going second. So let's play down the Sobble. We've got the Arceus as well. I'll grab the double Turbo Energy and attach that. And I'm thinking we might just throw all of these cards down here. We'll Big Charm, we'll play... actually, what we should do is we should play Capacious Bucket here, grab a couple of Water Energies out, and then discard one of those with Quick Ball. Because that way we'll actually be able to use Melanie. If we find it, we'll grab another Arceus, just in case something crazy happens. And then we will be able to Marnie our opponent down to 4 cards. We'll draw 5 ourselves. And hopefully it's enough to set up a board state for next turn. That is incredible. Double Drizzile plus Level Ball. In fact, I'm going to play this Level Ball right now. We'll grab ourselves another Sobble. Double Drizzile in hand means that we're effectively guaranteed to be able to do whatever we want. Now, we don't have the Water Energy just yet, but we can Melanie for it. because we got that into the discard pile. Plus the V-Star can come out. We can use the V-Star ability. We're looking really, really strong. This is the thing against lots of decks, is that they struggle to deal 310 damage, and if they do, they're only taking like 2 prizes, so what's the worth? Like, how is it worth it for them? I don't know. It's very, very interesting, and the thing about Arceus that I really, really like is that it is so flexible. You can do pretty much anything with it. Like those extra little flex spots, if you want to use the Cheren's Care for something else, you can. If you want to do, like you want to be creative with your supporters, maybe put in something like a Sydney, which was an option that I considered. Other cards like, if you want to play, I don't know, like, what's a card that I thought about? I'm going to play like the Lumineon V, or if you want to play, you can even play like a Galarian Zapdos V. Play some fighting energy as well. A Raihan would be good. Lots of different stuff. I mean, it's an incredibly versatile deck, and I think it's definitely worth playing around with, even if you're not looking to be a like super aggressive competitive player. We've been Marnied, but we've been Marnied into a pretty good hand here. I'm going to be able to Melanie, I think, onto the Arceus V. So we'll do that and see what we get. I mean, that's a lot of Arceus Vs. It's not quite what I wanted. We are going to need to use the Starbirth ability here to find 2 cards. To be honest, it's probably just going to be a Drizzile to grab a Scoop Up Net to get out of the active. And then, yeah, maybe a DTE. That could be a card that we use. Maybe grab a DTE ready to power up a next Arceus next turn. Let's just have a look, see, is there any Pokemon that I want? I think just Drizzile's fine. And then we'll just go for the DTE as well. It's definitely not ideal, but, you know, it's the situation where we don't need anything else. We can get the Scoop Up Net with the Drizzile and then DTE onto the Arceus on the bench. We can power that up. We'll be set and ready to go. We can even use the second Drizzile here after the Scoop Up Net to, oh, Scoop Up Net's prized. Oh. Okay, that's kind of annoying. Well, I mean, I was going to say we could just use the second Drizzile here to set up more Drizziles. We'll just attach the DTE and then go from there. I'm going to pay attention to that. Both Scoop Up Nets in the prizes. Make sure you prize check, ladies and gents, because I could have been in trouble there if I hadn't prepared myself with an energy, but that's okay. We're going to go for the Level Ball here. We'll go into another Drizzile, and then we can Quick Ball into another Sobble. Now, this is one thing that I really like about this deck as well, especially if you're playing the extra Inteleon, which I said that I wanted, is that lots of other decks kind of punish you for cascading Drizziles, whereas this doesn't. Like, it doesn't punish you at all for doing this. In fact, the deck almost encourages you to cascade them, because you can get your Inteleons into play. You can get everything that you need. Your Pokemon set themselves up. Like, the deck's really, really good. It's really strong. We're going to deal 180 here and then accelerate 3 water energies to the Arceus. Obviously, the Zarude with the big... the Cape of Toughness is tough to deal with, but we'll be able to get there eventually. It's not going to be too hard. We'll just give it... what are we going to need? We're going to need 2 sets of pings and a Zigzagoon to knock that out. So 2 turns of double Inteleon pings, which we can actually get with Inteleon here. We could go Inteleon for double Evo Incense if we have them. Get our double Inteleon quick shooters in play, and then research. Really, really good here. Looks like they're going for another capture energy. They're definitely looking for the Rillaboom on their side of the field to try and use their, what is it, Jungle Karate or Rage, or Jungle Rage? I think it's Jungle Rage. Attack to take a solid hit here. But I think the Big Charm's actually going to stop them from doing that. How much can they do? It was 120 plus 1. I think they can only do, what, 270? I think the maximum that they can do is 270, because it's 120 plus 120 is 240, plus Choice Belt is 270. So yeah, they've dealt 30 to me, and then get to do 270. I'm going to be left with 10 health, so maybe we go for the Inteleon for Cheren. And finally use that in this situation to show you how powerful it can be. Because yeah, Jungle Rage is 120 to 120. 240 plus the Choice Belt. So yeah, we shouldn't die. We shouldn't be knocked out, which means that we're guaranteed to be able to show off Cheren here, which is fantastic. They're going to Lumineon, which is a free prize for us later. I'm feeling really confident about this matchup. Like, unless the only thing that can really do us over here is if Cheren's prized as well, but I don't I don't remember seeing it in the deck. Maybe it is prized. I didn't check. I should probably check. I was doing these checks when I was playing on the weekend. I'm not doing them now. I should be doing them now. Okay, so here comes the Choice Belt. They're going to do 270 damage, which will leave the Arceus with 300 damage on it. Not enough to knock it out. And yeah, we've top decked into one of the quick shooters. Okay, no worries. Well, let's go with our shady dealings in Inteleon. Hopefully Cheren's there. If it's not, which it's not. Oh my gosh, okay. So again, we're in this weird position. We can't even power pad. Power pad's in the prizes as well. So at least now we know what 4 of our prizes are. It's double Scoop Up Net, power pad, and Cheren. Let's grab Boss. We can use that to take a knockout next turn. Kind of like grabbing this last Inteleon potentially. So maybe maybe I pick that up. This is an awkward one for sure. I think we'll just go for the Evo Incense. We can retreat as well and just get the knockout on the active. I don't mind that. So let's go for the Inteleon. We get the double quick shooters in play. We can ping the Zarude on the bench twice, retreat into the benched Arceus, and then attack. Hold the boss's orders for next turn. We can actually just ping the active and attack with the one on the active as well. That seems fine. Yeah, this is fine. This is fine. Just leave the fresh one powered up. That's fine. Okay, cool. Cool. Path is good. Water energy is good. Neither Scoop Up Net nor Cheren nor Power Pad coming out of those prizes. Okay, so Orkies, very Orkies. In hindsight, maybe I should have just retreated here. Made it more difficult for our opponent. I didn't need that boss. This Inteleon play is now actually really bad because I didn't have the Cheren. The Cheren would have been immense to get that knockout. Because we Cheren, removed that from the active, put the bench one into the active, and then accelerated energy to the bench, whilst taking prizes and quick shooting onto the benched one. So yeah, we should have Cherened. And in the absence of Cherening, maybe we boss up the Inteleon or something. Not the Inteleon, the Lumineon. Get those prizes going. Zarude, quick shoot. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Hey, listen. We live and we learn. There's things happening in this world that I'm not 100% across. Yeah, I feel bad now. But yeah, this is the thing, right? Skill-based decision making means the difference between winning and losing. And if I lose this game now, at least I know that it's because the turn where I took the knockout on the Zarude, I should have done the thing that I suggested that I do otherwise. So there's a lot of decision making that goes into these kind of games, which I really like. They're going for another copy of of the Shaman VSTAR, which is interesting to say the least. They've got that ability as well, which can heal the Zarude, which I don't like. But we have Path to the Peak, so we can definitely play that down. Hopefully they forget that the ability exists, or don't think that the ability is relevant. And either way, that's pretty good. We can Path to the Peak, use boss's orders to bring out the Lumineon, attack with the Arceus on the bench, and ping the Zarude in the active for 40 damage, preparing it to be knocked out by a Zigzagoon next turn. To be brutally honest, if we had played just that tiny little bit better, top decking a quick ball would actually win us the game next turn. So yeah, retreating into the benched Arceus was way better in hindsight. We retreat into the benched Arceus, have 50 damage to take on the active, and then yeah, so now I feel disappointed in myself. Because that's just a way better play. That would have taken 4 prizes this turn. Incredible. Leap to leap, they're going to deal 30 and then 30 to the benched Arceus. I'm fine with that. It's not the end of the world at all. Hey, we've got water energy as well, plus Professor's Research. We can just actually attach to Inteleon here, which I really like. I think the play now is going to need to be to knock out the Lumineon and then double ping the Zarude and hope. That's pretty much all that we need to do. That Star Bloom ability is a little bit tedious, but we have Path to the Peak, and even if they do use it, we can still take a knockout with the Inteleon potentially, as long as everything goes our way. So we'll throw down the Path to the Peak now to turn that Shaman ability off. I will also... Let's use the quick shooting. We'll put the damage onto the Zarude in the active. I like that. That leaves it on 220 HP, so 50 left because of the Cape of Toughness. We'll attach to the Inteleon, and then we will use the boss's orders to bring up the Lumineon. What they'll do is they'll go into their Shaman, they'll knock out the V-Star, and then we should be able to, as long as they don't remove the damage with Shaman. So we need to hope that they don't have the Stadium replacement. It's definitely awkward, but we'll go for it. And if we lose, we lose. So Trinity Nova, 230 damage, takes a knockout on Lumineon. We're past there. Take 2 prizes and see what happens. A Scoop Up Net is good, and a second Scoop Up Net definitely very strong. I think our opponent will promote Shaman, which they've done. And yeah, now we just wait. We just wait and see. If they do get the Starbloom ability off, we have at least another turn. Because we can Inteleon, Aqua Bullet, and hope. We've also got the potential boss, the Rillaboom, into the active play. That could be an option. But we've got 40 damage. This Zarude has 50 HP left. I mean, if everything stays the same, we actually win the game right here, because if they don't use their ability, we can just attack with the Inteleon into the active, double ping the Zarude, and then use Aqua Bullet. But in true tradition, true style, we're being Marnied out of a game-winning hand, presuming that they don't get the Stadium, which they obviously didn't have before. We have Quick Ball here, so Quick Ball for Zigzagoon still does the job. Again, now we're just hoping that our opponent does not draw into the Stadium, and it looks like they are going pretty hard for it here. They're going to thin their hand out pretty substantially and then draw 4 cards. If they play down the Stadium, they probably win. If they don't, then we probably win, bearing in mind that if I had have played better, we would have been able to win last turn. So definitely remember that. There's the Revenge Blast, so we are going to win the game here. Literally doesn't matter what we top deck, we have game in hand. We can promote the Inteleon into the active, double quick shooting onto the benched Zarude, and then we can, well, we just top deck the energy. So we can quick ball for the Zigzagoon. We'll do that. That's what I was going to do in the first place. The double turbo energy does the job as well. So we will ping, and there's the concession. Victory to Arceus. It can beat pretty much anything. Definitely a very, very strong deck. So thank you very much to everyone who supported me over the last week or so in preparation for Brisbane. Appreciate it, especially to Jordan Palmer and to Henry Brandt, who helped me out with testing. You guys are legends. Appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, as well as all of these people for becoming members. And if you want to see another Arceus deck list, which is definitely a lot more fun, a little bit less stressful than this one, then check out this particular deck over here. Arceus with Delmire's VMAX is actually pretty fun. So definitely check that one out. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. That's a weird way to end this one. It's been a long video. I'm going to go to sleep. Goodbye.